all of the lymphatic associated tissues or right by a major organ. You see, I showed you the sphenoid cavities. We went through the ethmoid cavities. We went through the frontal, but it's all protecting the brain. For that mucus won't get on the brain, because if the mucus get on the brain, you got schizophrenia. If the mucus get on the brain, it starts building up something called amyloid protein. Then you have Parkinson's disease. Then you have Alzheimer's disease. You see that? Then you have depression. Then you have Bell's palsy. You have all these different neurological degenerative diseases, because there's too much mucus and acids on the brain, and it's depriving the brain tissues, or what I call the neurological functioning tissues, of all of the oxygen. And when you deprive a cell of oxygen, it don't function properly. So you see, you have all these different cavities and craters inside the cranium to hold on to the acids, and to hold on to the mucus, and to hold on to the cholesterol, to hold on to the amyloid protein, for these things won't actually attack the brain or sit on the brain and start to rust the brain, or take the brain or the neurological tissues into something you call cellular oxidative stress. Because oxidizing the cell, meaning you're rusting out of the cell. All right, now it's traveled down. Now we pass the actual cervical. As soon as we get past the cervical, going into the axillary area, notice my heart is right here, but look what's on top of my heart. Left side. You have something called what? The thymus gland. Now, the beautiful thing about the thymus gland is one of the biggest lymphatic associated tissues ever. And the whole entire point of the thymus gland, it acts as a military school, or it acts as a military personnel to the entire lymphatic system, or what they mistakenly call, the immune system. I'm going to call it the lymphatic defense system. Now, check this out. So when you look at the actual thymus gland, the thymus gland is like the school. It trains the actual B cells. Now, B cell stands for bone marrow cells. Y'all say that with me. Type it in. B cell stands for bone marrow cells. Yes, the lymphatic defense system. And I coined that. That's my actual word. I'll put that together. Yes, bone marrow cells. So the actual thymus gland is a lymphatic associated tissue school. It teaches the bone marrow cells how to protect other cells. Not only that, it acts as a military personnel for something called the T cells. T cells stand for thymus gland cells, showing you that cells, even though they are made by the bone, once the bone releases them, these blood cells, whether they white or erythrocytes, they go to the thymus gland and they learn their job. They learn their title on what to do with the body. Oh, no, you're going to be a macrophage. Oh, no, you're going to be a phagocyte cell. You're going to go through and phagocyze everything I see. Soon as you see an invader, you're going to eat their ass, break them down, send them to the lymph node. Once they get to the lymph node, the bacteria going to come through with the street sweepers, make sure ain't nothing moving. It's going to break it down and disintegrate it. It's going to take it through lymph vessels and lymph capillaries. It's going to end up at the tubules and the nephrons and the kidneys, and then you're going to urinate all of that trash out. See that? They get instructions. They get jobs. They get titles, and they train hard. See that? So your training camp is your actual thymus gland. Now, the crazy part about this is, guess who loses their thymus gland around the age of 12? A lot of Europeans. You see that? Now, when it comes to so-called black people, yours start to shrink due to stress. So the more you stress, the more you shrink your thymus gland. So the very thing that teaches your cells how to protect the body, you ain't teaching them that because you're too busy shrinking in school, because you're out into environmental toxins. You're drinking, you're smoking, you're eating acidic forming foods, you're entertaining stupid conversations, you're entertaining relationships that's not good for you. You're constantly putting your neurological, spiritual body into a bunch of toxic environments, which causes this lymphatic associated tissue school to shrink. If it's no school there, how they gonna get their actual jobs and titles to defend and protect the body? You see that? So we drained it from the cranium. First line of defense, or the first thing that cleansed them up and broke these different mucuses and tissues down, was what, y'all? The tonsils, the adenoid, in the tonsils. Then it moves down and it goes to the thymus gland. Now, once it moves down from the thymus gland, where do it go? Now it goes to what you would call the axillary cavities. Now, when you look at this, the axillary cavities, I'm too close. That's better. So the axillary cavities is from the shoulders to basically to up under the diaphragmatic muscle. The diaphragmatic, let me take these lungs off real quick. So the diaphragm or the diaphragmatic muscle is right here. It's this little blue lining, or this little clear white bluish lining right here. This the diaphragmatic muscle. This is what actually dilates the lungs and constrict the lungs. And that's why I breathe and strengthen this diaphragmatic muscle. And that's how you really draw and breathe in the breath. So once you get to the shoulders, all the way down to the diaphragmatic muscles, they call this the axillary, right? So you have the thymus gland that sits right on top of the heart, which actually help cleanse the heart. But then you have different axillary, like the mammary nodes. The mammary nodes is what get blocked up in a woman. And that's why so many black women, so-called black women, have what you would call triple negative invasive ductal carcinoma breast cancer. Because it's the actual mammary nodes that's been blocked up, meaning she been cleansing everywhere else. But when they tried to cleanse the mammary glands or the ducts that's connected to her nipples are so calcified that all of that toxins don't know where to go. So what happens is the body is so smart, the body will straight pull them away. Let me see, I got a breast. I got one right here. The body will start pulling the breast away. This is an actual breast. So the body will start trying to pull all these toxins away. So instead of putting the toxins inside of the bloodstream, what happens is the body will create pockets and put all of these cells into the pockets. And then you start seeing tumors grow or basically coagulate along the actual mammary gland nodes and vessels. So breast cancer is actually the body trying to heal itself. It just means that you are backed up interstitially and your lymphatic system is not draining properly. So if you can get the lymphatic system to drain properly, guess what? You will see that the breast tumors will go down. Y'all see how that work? All right, got that now. Let's get back to it. So now, we talked about the axillary nodes. We talked about the cervical node. We talked about the maxillary nodes as inside of the breast. Yes, man, you do have maxillary nodes too, or maxillary lymphatic vessels as well. Even though that you don't have big plump breasts, man, you still have breasts. Your breasts are just not functional because even though you have some type of prolactin that get produced by your pituitary gland, you can't produce milk. You see that? But the woman can. And since she can produce milk, guess what milk is made out of? Milk have calcium in it. Now, remember, I'm talking about the calcium. That calcium is something crazy when you're dealing with acids. Calcium in the body is amazing until you start introducing calcium into mucus and acids. Then it's a problem. And that's where a lot of women are getting the triple negative, HER2 positive, inductal carcinoma breast cancer from. Calcification. What is calcifying? The mucus. Why is the mucus calcifying? Because it's introduced to acids and it don't have nowhere to go because you are constipated and you are intercellularly constipated. You stagnated. And you have to break up that stagnation. And the only way is to open up this gut, where we're getting down to, because this is the beginning of all things. You would not exist without the primitive gut tube. You actually come from what you would call a primitive gut tube. That's the first thing, a part of creation. Of course, you got the melanated dot that's full of selenium and calcium and magnesium, but it all starts from a primitive gut tube. And then from that primitive gut tissue, every branch of your body come from, even your head. We got to talk about that. All right. So now we done went through there. We're going past the stomach. That's the stomach. Now we starting to get into other things. Now, if you look right behind the stomach, you see something called the spleen. This is the spleen. Now, the reason why the spleen is one of the major things that we work on in healing is because this is where the blood cleanses all extoxemia into the actual lymphatic system. Again, the spleen is one of the biggest lymphatic associated tissues known to the human body other than the liver. And we're not going to talk about the liver today because the liver have over 12,000 different types of functionalities with the lymphatic system. One of them is producing bile then acting as a aggregate and blocking up and basically plugging up all types of holes that you have been, putting in your body due to acidosis, and opening up the bile ducts, pushing it into the actual interstitium tissues and fluid of the body that cause you to open up what they call metabolic pathways. And all a metabolic pathway is a pathway of elimination, meaning that it's a pathway for you to detoxify. All right. So the spleen is amazing.